What up? This is Rama Screen, and in the anticipation of the new animated film Secret Magic Control Agency, which arrives on Netflix March 23, I'm here talking with the music composer for this new animated film, Gabriel Hayes. How are you, Gabriel?
I'm good. How are you today, Rama?
Good. Thank you
I'm
for
saying
taking
it
the
right.
time. Yes, you did. So let's start with the obvious question here. How did this project come your way? And correct me if I'm wrong, but you had a collaborator or team partner on this composing gig, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can explain that all. We had a previous relationship with WizArt, who is the studio that was producing the film, and had worked on a television series with them. My collaborator Brad Breek and myself, and so they asked us about if we were interested in the project, and one thing led to another, and we moved forward on scoring it. However, Brad had to kind of step back to more a consulting role at a certain point. Just got some other things came up that he had to.
Ah,
Yeah, I steered the ship, but he was always there, kind of as. I mean, we've been longtime collaborators and worked together on a lot of things over the years. But that's kind of how this world goes sometimes.
okay, so thank you for clarifying. So Brad is more the consulting part, and you're more the on the steering wheel, correct?
Yeah, on this one, that's right.
All right. So obviously, we are all familiar with the classic Grimm's fairy tale of Hansel and Gretel. But this movie injects an espionage action into this classic story and these classic characters. And of course, this is not your first foray into animation. You've done other animated projects before. So, talk to me about what crossed your mind when you first heard or when you first come upon this interesting concept of Secret Control Magic Agency. And what were some of your conversations that you had with Alexei, the director, on what kind of music that he was looking for?
Yeah, it's well, right away was kind of very intrigued by the idea. I love fairy tales, and the Hansel and Gretel one is a classic. But then pretty quickly you learn that it's a pretty big spin on that, in that they're they're actually adults, and they're secret agents, and so you kind of think, okay, so how do we balance that out? So we did have a conversation with Alexi and also with Vladimir, who's the head of WizArt, quite a bit back and forth, just kind of talking about, initially read a script and then got an early cut, which had, most of the story, or had the whole story there, and the dialogue, and some good, some completed sequences even, but you got a pretty good sense of what the movie is. So then it became kind of a big challenge, from a musical perspective, of like, how do we tell this story? Those are both those two genres are not ones that I am aware of coming together too often. And so I started have to think about, what did that mean for the music? And so we had some conversations back and forth, and I think it was really key to remember that they were our heroes, and in particular Gretel. I mean, they are together, but we kind of think of Gretel as the strong lead of it all, and but at the same time, they're not in London or New York, or some other great world city, chasing down somebody who did some bank robbers. They're in a fairy tale land, so you had to kind of make sure that you were um, helping set the tone for that world as well. And that was super fun and an interesting challenge to figure out where how that all lived together.
Did you take some inspiration from other fairy tale movies or other spy movies out there as part of your influence for Secret Control Magic Agency? Because I'm assuming the spy part would be more like constant, instant, like intense beat, whereas the fantasy is more of a sparkle and glitter kind of tone to it, right?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of that. And they also, when I definitely thought of those elements, and I also aim to think about what did they have in common. And so I felt like a lot of times one of the feeling that is common, even though they sort of get to it in different ways musically, is there's a sense of the unexpected, and it's pretty, but it's also, especially in the spy genre, it's also fun and unexpected and mysterious, and in the fantasy, it's a little bit, like you said, more sparkly and but also mysterious. And so, yeah, I went, and had a good look at some of the classic spy films, knowing that we didn't really want it to be like James Bond, because that didn't, that it seemed like the big band jazz element was not quite right for the fairy tale
Mhm.
side of it in terms of our leads. Which, though, I mean, I of course love the James Bond stuff. It's so amazing. But I looked at that and Mission Impossible and actually even The Incredibles, which all have a strong jazz influence. But I kind of, there's a certain kind of vocabulary that is pretty common, or at least certain moves that I was checking out, and I thought, okay, well, how can I kind of incorporate that into this? And of course, then I think, Harry Potter is uh, probably one of the most iconic examples. I felt like that was a good one too, because Harry Potter is about kids and their coming of age, and though this movie, in it, they are adults and kids, so it needed to have some of that youth and sparkle in it too.
Talk to me about what were some of the instruments or sounds that you incorporated for your music on this one.
Sure. I'm not sure if you got, if we were able, or if you got access to the recording. There's a couple of videos of the orchestra recording sessions, but so there's orchestra naturally, which was key, but also early on in trying to set the magical world that they lived in, and so fairy tale is also magic. So uh, I worked with Cesar Hamilton, who is uh, my cousin actually, and a really talented musician, and he came in and helped me out with well, we had to do it apart. I say came in, but COVID was happening, so we did it separately. But he helped. We talked about it and worked on creating some instruments from samples of various bottles and wine glasses and mugs, and sort of created a these this instrument that's like a celeste, or and also kind of like a magic harpsichord, and they have this kind of a sparkly quality to them, but also, and I think they're meant to evoke some of those instruments a little bit, but still have their own character. So that was a big, that was a super fun way to kind of add just a little bit of a color that was our own for this.
In your process of balancing the fantasy nature of the film and the spy nature of the film, um, when you brought forth some ideas to Alexei and the producers, were there moments when somehow the music ideas just couldn't fit or didn't work, which then kind of compelled you to go back to the drawing board, so to speak? And so, yeah, what happened when there were disagreements like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good question. I think in a lot of movies, and especially one where you're trying to figure out sort of where the movie lives, we had to spend a little bit of time. After kind of doing some initial ideas, we realized we needed to step back and really focus on getting the themes that everybody felt was right for the movie. So for that process, I basically just kept writing themes on the piano, and I wrote a bunch of different ideas that some of them were related, and I just send them to them, just piano renditions, and they'd write back and say, hey, we like this one, or we like that one, or what
Hmm.
about a piece of this one and this piece of that one. So then I would try a new iteration on that. So we did that back and forth for a little while, and after a while, everybody's like, it was pretty clear that like we like this one and we like this one, and so I was able to. They actually had some similar musical vocabulary, and I think one ended up being kind of the main SMCA theme, um, which is when they're introducing, among other places, introducing the spy agency, and another one I sort of think of is the adventure theme for Hansel and Gretel. Kind of when they're they're coming together as a team, the two of them. So I don't know. It just basically, like any big project like this, if you find the right seeds, would be a way to think about it, of ideas that that you can kind of sprinkle around the movie, and hopefully they'll be adaptable to the different parts. And that's a good test. You try something that feels right. For me, anyways, I might have to watch the movie and then step back and work away from the movie, get some ideas, and then try them out with the movie and say, okay, was that feeling, is it matching up? And then you pretty quickly get a feeling of like, yeah, this is feeling right, or maybe I need to change something.
Thank you for sharing that. And I did watch the film entirely recently, and I very much enjoyed it. Very exciting film. Definitely, I hope everybody gets to see it when it comes to Netflix, when it comes on Netflix next week. And finally, Gabriel, what's next on your horizon? And will there be a sequel to Secret Control Magic Agency? Have there been talks of that?
I hope there's a sequel. I don't know, but I will say there's a little. I think there certainly could be, and so we'll keep our fingers crossed that maybe that will happen. Um, and as far as what's next for me on the film side, it's nothing I can talk about just yet. But I am working also something that's been kind of on the back burner because you get really busy. I'm really hoping to put out an album of solo music of my own this year, involving strings and a bunch of fun sounds. I know you can kind of see I've got this thing full of all funky keyboards everywhere, so something that kind of pulls on a lot of my background for that.
All right. For my fans at home, everybody go check out Secret Magic Control Agency, arriving on Netflix March 23. Gabriel, thank you for talking to me, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Rama. It was a pleasure. I hope to do it again sometime.